Hello, everyone. This is Andrew Sheng from the Georgetown Institute of Open and Advanced Studies. Welcome to the first of the Georgetown Masterclasses. We have decided to have a Georgetown Masterclass instead of a conversations because a lot of students have wanted to know, well, I want to learn from somebody on a specific topic. And I thought this was a very good idea. So what we should do is to get a person who has done all his life working on a specific area to share with our colleagues, students, professors, public, how he or she actually think about the particular subject and act on it. Okay? And the topic this morning is actually organizational transformation. Now, what is organizational transformation? Well, it could be individual transformation. How do you transform, right? And there are two aspects of transformation. The first is that the environment changes. Where you operate in, the business environment changes. You move to a different place, or the new competitor comes into the business, all right, or a new rival, right? And so what happens is that you have to adapt, you have to transform. Now, some people transform before the environment because they see that's where the trend is going. I want to transform before the environment. This is like, if you want to, you live in a house, when there's sunshine and when there's raining. Do you repair your roof when the sun is shining? Or do you repair the roof when it's raining? Now, when it's raining, it's impossible for you to go up to the roof to repair the roof, right? So the transformation has a certain amount of timing in it, okay? And it's about also mindsets. How do you think about the transformation? Why do you need to transform? How do you do it? These are all aspects that are easy or extremely difficult. And now the thing to remember about organizational transformation is that this is not exactly a science. This is not exactly an art. This is a craft. This is something you learn on the job, and you learn it in the same way that you learn every craft. You learn how to cook, you ask your mother how she does the cooking. You want to learn carpentry, you go to a carpentry expert. You want to learn about organizational transformation, you find a master in this. And today we have a true master in this. This is Mohd Izani Ashari, who has spent 3 decades in 10 companies in 7 industries, who has lived all his life in transformations. Now, what industries, are these? These include, construction, building, oil and gas, banking, airlines, and government organizations, especially, government-linked companies, GLCs, right? Izani has been in the thick of this. He has done the thinking, he has done the talking, and he has done the walking. And that's important because, if you just listen from a professor, not that the professor is not very good, but if the professor has not actually done the actual work, it's just like asking a cook, how do you cook this? Well, he said, this is the recipe. No, but how do you cook this? And then you realize there's a difference between a master cook and an apprentice cook. I cannot cook the same way as my mother because I learned it from theory. But if she has done it every day of her life, she has cooked better than me. Same way with, Izani, right? So over to you, Izani. How do you do organizational transformation? What is it? And how do you think about it?
Okay, first of all, thank you, Andrew, for inviting me to give this, but to share my thoughts and knowledge on organization transformation. It has been a while that I've since retired, so I thought this is a good chance for me to now share my knowledge to whoever needs to learn about how to do transformation. Perhaps a little bit of what I'm going to cover in my sharing today. I'm going to cover about four main topics. First of all, we need to understand when we talk about transformation, what is it really all about, right? I mean, because different people have got different thinking about what is the definition. And then you need to understand when is a transformation needed. I think Andrew gave an analogy about how, when to repair the house. In reality, sometimes it's almost like in my experience trying to fix the engine of a 747 while flying in the mid-air. You know, I mean, this is not something like you can stop the aircraft and then repair, but you need it's an ongoing concern like any other business. You know, so this is quite a challenge. How do you actually manage operation and innovation at the same time? And then I will share on the third point about the challenges in transforming organization and what mitigation that you can do to overcome some of the challenges. And then get to the core of it. How do you go about? That's probably my last piece, that if there is anything that I wanted to share. Perhaps I want to start with actually definition. Now, when you change, it doesn't mean that you necessarily transform. I mean, take that properly, because people talk about change and people think they have transformed. But when you transform, definitely you need to change. So when I put the slide there, all I'm saying that there are many people who have done change, but it's all incremental. There are some people who have done big change, is called transformational. So what exactly is transformational change? It's doing fundamentally different things and sometimes doing the same thing differently. It's almost like if you understand the concept of yin and yang, the doing and the being, transformation is almost changing the being rather than changing the doing only. So this is actually a very important concept for people to understand. So I put that at the bottom there. Obviously, as you move into a bigger change, the size of the price and the risk is even higher. That's for sure. But at the bottom horizontal line, I just put that. What does it mean by changes? Is small lava to bigger lava is a change, but it's incremental. But what we are talking here is actually how to come from bigger lava to become butterfly. That's a huge change. And that happens in many organizations of late because of the changes in environment, changes in technology, changes in the requirements, and so on and so forth. So you can see that many organizations goes into cross-functional improvement. They have a CFT, cross-functional team, they do all the improvement. And some go even deeper by having to change the processes in the business. But these are still incremental. And some have embarked on the real business transformation, changing the portfolio, changing the DNA. Even some even go further, including changing the business model itself. And the far through transformationists are the ones who can do the industry reinvention. These are rare, but this can sometimes happen. I put a quote there at the bottom, say, you know what Albert Einstein said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but you expect different things. So if you want to actually have a value improvement, a big value improvement, you have to do different things. You have to do things in different ways. Okay. Then what is this that when is a transformation needed? I like the one that I said earlier, what Andrew is saying about preparing the house while sunshine. I put a two perspective on when do you need to change. On the left, I put what I call the wall analogy. And then on the right, I call, that's a horizon perspective. The other one is fundamental perspective. Now, when I say the wall analogy is this, sometimes organizations decided to do something about themselves when they are hit by the wall. So I've been involved in some organizations where, we are not making money. There is a dark gloomy on our side. We have to do some change. That's one. The other world analogy that I can say is that when you see the world coming, for example, digital is coming onto you, new regulation, competitors move, then you need to do something about it. You cannot stay put. The third one is actually, this is the best if you can do. You become the organization that built the world. You are the game changer. You are the disruptor. So these are what I call the horizon perspective. Okay, that's one part. But not every war that comes that you need to overreact. That's why I put on the right side the fundamental perspective. This is where you have to assess whether what happened to your core asset and core activities. This is a work done by Anita McGahan. There's a book written that I put the source there, how industries evolve. She said, you must know the importance between important development versus temporary distraction. Very important. Because otherwise, you cannot keep on saying that every signal that comes to you overreact. You know what I mean? Certain things you need to know when is it now, you have to really do something. So what is it? You check at the core asset, you check at the core activity, which one is being threatened. I put a simple example. If one day we can do time travel, time travel in terms of really technology, I think the airlines have got to really think hard, because what happened? The core assets now is being threatened because it's no longer needed, right? Because people can now do traveling in different way. The same thing like, the advance of computer that beats the typewriter. There's also when the core asset become threatened and obsolete. So ability to identify what are the things that will make your core asset threatened, obsolete, or your core activities threatened, obsolete, is very important, because that will impact the value proposition you are going to put to the marketplace. But in the work that is done by Anita McGrath, that she puts in a matrix form, in terms of there are times that actually when the core asset is threatened, but the activities are not threatened. There are also where the core activities are threatened, but the core assets are not threatened. And there are a number of ways to address the issue. All I'm saying on this particular part is that it is important for you to know this horizon perspective. Are you being hit by the war? See the war coming, or want to create new war? And then at the same time, you need to know whether the things that coming to you, are they important development or temporary distraction, measured by how much is your core asset and activities or core activities are being attracted. I mean, that's the essence of this particular slide. Now, I will now talk about the challenges in transforming organization. I've been involved in about 10 large-scale and transformation effort. My conclusion about challenges are the following. I mean, if you read articles from in some of the internet, some of the literature, I mean, they put in different ways. But I put in a manner that more like elements of it. One is transforming organization is very complex. Very complex because all parts need to move together. This is not like one part you can actually ignore, certain parts need to move, but all parts need to move together. Whether those parts need to be amended, changed, or deleted, that's another story. But all parts need to take together. And then the problem is actually, how do you align that sort of movement? That's complex. That's complex. Like what Andrew was saying, small organization, not bad, but big organization is tough. And most of my works have been involved in big organization change. The second part, the challenges that you have is actually try to do a balancing act between a short-term versus long-term, between existing versus new. Or the example that I want to put is actually how to fix the engine of 747 was flying in the mid-air. I mean, it is not easy on how do you actually at the same time want to focus on new things, but at the same time also want to make sure that existing things are still running. And then getting into what I call the momentum, getting the momentum and trying to sustain the momentum. I put there the Bohica syndrome. Bohica means this, It's actually bend over, he comes again. People get tired when they say that, oh my God. Last time, I have a leader who want to do it, but he never got to do it. He left, or when he failed, whatever it is. So at some point, organization will be tired. So how do you actually make sure the momentum continues to be on the high energy level? And the next bullet is very much the more the main part, which actually because transforming organization involve human. This is tough. Why? Because different people have got different interests. Those who's going to retire will have a different interests as opposed to who are younger one. Those who are in the senior level have got different interests and priority as opposed to those in the bottom line. Those who are in different fraternity have got different professional sentience compared to other fraternities. Those who are in groupings like unions, non-unions also have their own interests. So to be able to get people to actually now, many parties to come to an agreement that this is actually what we need to do is really indeed a complex challenge. And then the other one is actually getting commitment from leaders, from people about their time, about how to manage energy, how to come in person, not to actually get representatives to come to certain session. It's also a challenge. I mean, this is what I see as what are the typical challenges. So how do you mitigate all this? I put it in a box because it's not one-to-one relationship. It's actually many things coming together. I think you need a guiding coalition. You need a team of senior people who have got the authority. You need to set up what I call the PMO, the Program Management Office, or some people call Turnaround Management Office, the Transformation Management Office, to actually help to actually steer the particular effort. The other bit is this: don't take little about education to top management. Sometimes the top management is the one, the culprit, the one who doesn't want to change. Really, because I put the analogy of you want to make curry. No, Andrew, you want to make curry. You want to make curry. You know what happened? So the leader was saying that do this, do that, do that. Actually, the leader is the curry powder. He was not in pot. He forgot that he needs to be in the pot to make the curry happen. So top management really needs to be educated. I remember for one particular university, they asked me to do some labs for their work, for their organization, for their university. I need to go and educate the top management what is lab all about. Otherwise, they think lab is like workshop, it's like seminar, it's a different method altogether. And then fortunately, the vice chancellor was very good. I think after I initiated one lab, they did another 7 labs thereafter. They understand on how to do it. I think the education to top management is very important on this is what it takes. Also at the same time, this is also a point about the one that you decide, you draw the line between who is on the train, who is on the platform. I mean, some top management feel things need to be a different way. In my experience, I've seen some examples that I was involved that some senior management are taken out from the organization because they don't believe in what needs to be done. Okay. The other mitigation is leaders need to role model. What are the things that we need to become to the new? You also need to employ program and project management techniques. Okay, the point about managing transition, this is one that in one organization, they wanted to transform one particular institute. They couldn't get to transform. Even though they do employ consultants, they have change management and whatnot, they forgot that actually the human aspect of change. So there is a change management, there is also a transition management. Transition management is actually getting people to go through change. Change management is the hardware, the tangible. So ability to understand on how to do managing transition is very important. The next mitigation that needs to happen is actually to have a robust governance. You know, when you introduce a new change, new things that you wanted to do, but you have existing operation to run. If you put the governing of the new change into existing operation, in my experience, the operation will actually always take the priority because that operation is always urgent. So you have to draw a separation between the new things and the existing that you need to manage. This is where in some companies we call ambidextrous organization. I would say that in my experience after doing this, actually I would say it's not only ambidextrous, it's become tridextrous. In other why? Because organization also have memories. So you don't have only present and future, but you have past. Organization will continue to say, we did that in the past, it doesn't work. So it get locked on. So you need to almost manage three things in one shot: the past, the present, and the future. I mean, that's why the robust governance is important. And then the platform for participation. In my experiences, many people actually want to contribute. And we use mechanisms of labs, which I can address as another topic. That why we call it lab, because as you know, we work in the science stream, lab is actually where things are being experimented. So in this case, we don't have the test tube and whatnot, but we have management ideas. But you do not know whether this idea is going to be accepted or not. So you test. You talk to people, you see whether they can accept all these ideas and how to make it work and so on and so forth. And how do you go about? You get people to get involved in the design of it and also to advise on how to go about to it. That's why these platforms like labs is important for people to be able to be involved in the work itself. There are a lot of engagement because there are so much uncertainty. In the way that you are doing transformation, there are so much uncertainty. Certain things are not really there yet, and so on and so forth. So during that phasing, there's a lot of concerns that you need to address. There's a lot of concerns you need to address. And then you need to always get connected to the organization. That's why the regular engagement is very important. The reward scheme is very important because normally when you reward the positive behaviors that support change, normally you get more momentum come back. My experience that don't do reward that goes by year end. It must be instant gratification. So in one particular organization they conducted a lab, and the lab actually delivers certain value. So one particular student will say, okay, who were in the lab and deliver this one? So I think about 7 or 8 stand up. You get 1 month bonus. Paycheck comes next month. I mean that create really a lot of tipping point for organization to accelerate the change. And as I said earlier, there's also boundary action you need to do. You need to draw the line between what is and what is not. For those, especially at senior management, normally this is what happens. If you cannot join the effort, probably it's time that you need to leave. Some other people might want to carry on the banner. I mean that these are the various mitigation that at least based on my experience. Okay, then we come to the crux of the matter. Then how do you go about to do it? I put the energy of almost like there's a plan about the house that you want to build. There is materials on site that you need to have. Okay, materials that you need to order. But construction is another thing, to construct and to take the material. So I say, if the key elements are the materials, the elements that need to be there, the process is actually what you need to do with the elements. Okay. In this particular slide, there are some bullet points that I've updated. I will share. I think in order to, because this is an organization, you need to secure mandate from your shareholder. I mean, this is what we need to do. Whoever holds the final mandate. And then immediately you need to have funding. I remember in one organization, they got the mandate, they get a couple of million funding in order to support the effort. Then they got a bit of an open check, but calculated in terms of if there's more funding needed, then they need to come back to need to go back to the mandate. And then you need to get an air cover. This is very important. If there is no air cover, because there are so many things that you need to do, you have to trample some people's toes, some people's territory. You need to have an air cover to allow certain things to happen. Because in my experience, at least when you deal with actually those in authority, it's very difficult if you don't have an air cover for you to deal with authority. I mean, that's very important. And then leadership commitment. This is very important. This one cannot be delegated. This one leadership must spend time. I remember in one particular organization when we did a lab for like 4 weeks, the sponsor of the lab come almost like every other day. Every other day they come and see the lab, whether they are producing the thing that was intended, right? Okay. And then the other bit I'm saying that ownership, very important. I didn't put that, ownership. Never do this. Never do this. I remember in one organization in UAE, we are in the core team. They wanted to give the ownership to us to drive the transformation. I said no. We said no. It needs to be driven by the line. It's only the line who has got the authority to do it, because they are coming at their territory. For example, if you go to finance and you think that you can drive finance, no, cannot. It's only finance can do it. Now, how do you govern finance? You do with a good what I call the other point, but robust governance design. So there is a Harvard article about, only senior management can do the dual role. What's that dual role? Between running an operation and also getting innovation done. So that's why it says that the ownership must belong to the line. And then you must form the guiding coalition. Who are those who are going to drive this? And in my experience, it's not typically the management committee only. It's actually the management committee plus. In other words, the other influencers in the organization who will actually carry on the message from management and actually help to propagate the things that you wanted to do. So it's actually management plus. So you can have like N-1 plus some N-2 and plus maybe union leaders, and so on and so forth. Okay. And then the other bit, I would say, is you need to form a program office. You need to form a transformation office. There's no way that the CEO can handle it himself. He needs to have someone who has a certain role, who help CEO to drive the what we call this transformation. But he needs to actually also get the TMO, the PMO, so-called, to consolidate for him, to give me the picture, the status, and what's happening. As I said earlier, you need to have a robust governance design between how do you manage innovation and how do you manage operation, the setup, the members. Typically, in my experience, in the typical operation governance design, which is MC and so on, it's quite hierarchy. But in the innovation, the governance is normally network. It's a flat structure. So it's quite a different design altogether. I remember in Kazana, we talked about Andrew. I remember we talked about ambidextrous organization. I said, I did it 20 years ago. It worked. And there's a way to do it because the behavior in both governance are very different. But because those owners are in both governance, they get to manage the balancing act. And their KPIs are guarded by both as well. Okay. And then there must be some rewards mechanism to allow on how do you actually reward people. This is actually to give the momentum and to be fair to those who actually work hard to make it work. So these are what I call the key elements that need to be put in place in order to do transformation. Now that's almost like material side, almost like you bring cement, aggregate, door, but it doesn't tell you how do you go about to do it. So many articles, many books write on the right hand side, not very much on the left hand side. I think we need to marry the two. So the process of doing it is actually whoever that wants to go this undertaking must do a lot of prognosis to understand the situation both from an existing to the ambition. There's even nowadays there's even the thought about the life of the CEOs actually when they come to the new company. Actually now expectation is in terms of time available is very short. They say that the CEO must arrive with a plan. So I remember in one particular organization, the CEO presented to the board what is the plan for the transformation on day one of his arrival. That's because he spent 3 months of his time to produce that plan. Okay. And then on the second bullet, if you want to do transformation, because the body is not changed, you must set a very ambitious and bold target, both in tangible, intangible. Most of my experience, some CEOs look at more the tangible than the intangible. I think if you were to consider it to CEOs, I think you need to actually to cover both the tangible and intangible, because in order for you to do transformation, you need to do culture change that involves intangible. Now, after you have done all that, then only you should be able to produce what we call the initial roadmap. What's the story? What's the narrative about all this? And this is very important, because this narrative is very important, because this will be the start of you communicating to the organization what that you wanted to do. And then only people are going to watch. So what's going to happen next? You need to kickstart first project, what I call entry points. I put that 3 Ps. 3 Ps means you look at the projects in 3 different categories: pain, problem, and pleasure. So you need to first remove the pain, solve problem, and increase pleasure. I mean that's the way to look at it. So if the staff is saying that, the way that we do sound processing are very painful, address that. Because the moment you do all that 3 Ps, it gives you confidence to the staff and say that this team, this leadership is serious. And then as I said, you have a participation platform. So normally if you do labs, I've done the 7 dozen of it, and I find it is very useful, because lab is almost like a microcosm of a new culture. Because sometimes when you are in the lab, the hierarchy is not important. The ideas are more important. So you can be doing the work for the last 20 years, but that 20 years could already be obsolete. I mean, I remember I was facilitating one lab in one organization. So we are talking about retail operations at the oil and gas. I was a bit, as a facilitator, you want to push people to the limit. So one day, they weren't happy. The lab members are not very happy, because I was pushing them to the limit. They said, Izani, once you talk about this, how long have you done retail? I said 0. You know how many years I've done? 20 years. Then I said, then let me ask you a question. 20 years ago and now, are the retail stations the same? Different. So what good is the experience? I mean, that sort of conversation needs to happen in the way to say that people get stuck. Yeah. Why do I say that? Because if you look at the petrol stations now, for example, there are a lot of electronics or all this kind of the new technology thingy. It's no longer like in the past. So if people think that the past can be used as a guide, it also can be a fatal mistake. Then the next part is actually you need to implement. The moment the lab makes certain recommendation, there'll be some quick wins and whatnot. Do that. Do the quick wins, get the momentum going. The more that what we call like what John Cotter said, the moment you have more of that, do more of that so that you can have more support. As I said, progress monitoring, It's very important. Because that's why you need us to have a control tower. This is where the PMO, CMO, or TMO is needed to help CEOs to actually see what's happening. And when things have been achieved, celebrate success. Very important. Reward. Very important. And then you consolidate and extend the effort. And then the process repeat. Okay, then the question will be, actually, how do you know whether you are successful? Then the answer is actually in the outcome, in the results. There are a number of effort that either we got stuck in the way that we so get engrossed by activities rather than measuring the result. And then we don't have things like there's a what we call the carrot and stick thingy that needs to be said to the owner of the of particular effort. I mean, I think this is very important. So that's why one thing that I learned along the way is actually there are two ways of looking at the world in order to do improvement. That happens even when I was involved in government transformation program. If you want to reduce crime, what can you do? You can send our police to some other countries and to learn how they do crime. That's a capability-based approach. Or just employ some rela and find a hotspot and put the rela members there. The crime will come down almost like immediately. So one is actually capability approach, one is a results approach. So it's very important that on the point number one, to be clear about what is the results that you want. And I always say that somehow when organizations are in trouble, P&L have got to be the focus. But the moment you're already okay, if your P&L is okay, then the question will be, the measure has got to be the new P&L. Are they coming enough from the new effort that you do? So that's very important. On the second bullet, you can see that this transformation is working when you can see the high energy level. You know, the next two is all people wanting to do more, people want to get involved, the feeling of the environment. People feel that, you know, this almost like the thing that I mentioned earlier about transition management. This is the William Bridges model to say that when people have embraced the new thing, they say, how was it? I like it. I want to do more about it, and so on and so forth. These are what I call another measure of success. Then the other measure of success is actually the improved brand reputation. I remember in one particular operating unit of a company that I've been, when I first joined this particular operating unit, people from other operating units were saying that, why the hell you join this particular operating unit? Then over time, the operating unit that I was doing a change effort or transformation get improved, and it turned the other way around, in such that these are the what we call the outfit that now people want to come in. Last time it used to be an operating unit that nobody wants to come in. So what I'm saying that, and then this particular operating unit become the top of the units in the bigger organization. So this is one measure of success. The other measure of success is when you are benchmarked by competitor. When competitors start beginning to knock on your door to say, "Can we learn something from you?" I mean, this is something that you know, I've experienced it in my other organization, in other multinational. So ability to understand, to put a yardstick on what is the measure of success is also very important. You can see it covers both tangible and intangible together. Okay. Then the question will be, okay, after the effort has finished, how do you make sure that it gets sustained? And this is a classic question that was being asked at one time by some people to me, Zani, how do you make sure a very sustainable uh, transformation outcome of all this? First, I would say that you need to put an institution to this. Institution, what I mean by institution as well, is actually it needs to be, to my fourth bullet point, is actually to put the effort, the rigor high on the agenda. The CEOs also come and go, management also come and go. If you actually, you forget about that point, you forgot to consider that point, the third bullet point becomes very crucial. Where's the continuity of resource? I can see that, why some effort, when people who were involved in the effort actually were no longer there, organization will lose memory. I mean, that happens in some organizations. So the moment you move people around, the continuity is no longer there, then the effort cannot be sustained. So the reverse is important. So it is important that you need to have a continuity of resource. And then you need to continue to reward the contributors. Those who are actually getting into the innovation need to be continued to be rewarded. And then if you want to put yourself as an organization to be on the toe, do continuous benchmarking. Because that's the way that you know whether you are all right or not all right. I mean, this also almost like to Anita McGahan core asset and core activities item just now. So, my last slide. So, what is the other thing that you just need to remember? Once you get excited about getting solution to the problem, the real answer is also to understand the political process through the problem. Because often a big boss and his subordinate, the conversation will be different. If you ask them how what's the answer to this, the big boss can say certain thing, the small his subordinate will say the other thing, but the moment you put the two together, sometimes the big boss ideas prevail. The question will be, if the big boss idea is not correct, how do you go about to actually to do the other way around? I mean, this is what I mean by political process. If you want to have this particular effort, I just want to share what the characteristics of a transformer, I call it. There are three characteristics I call it. First of all, you are going to be loner. Loner, let me tell you, even though people say I'm committed and whatnot, when the crunch comes, sometimes you are left alone. Really left alone. This is almost like, I call it Jedi. You have to learn to become Jedi. You know, you look at Star Wars movie, where got Jedi? They send hundreds one. They send only 2-3 Jedi to a planet and go and sort it out. So only 2-3 Jedi. You are going to be 2-3 Jedi. Yeah. The organization can call you insane, crazy. When I first joined from a competitor to this organization, people think that I'm a spy. I want to go and get data, and then 3 months later resign and get data. I mean, there's all sorts of skeptics. No? Right? The second characteristic is that you have to have like 2 miles thick skin. 2 miles thick skin, 2 miles thick skin, but sensitive now. Why? Because you are going to be said many things on you. I mean, you must be crazy. The bosses call you. You have cross line. Because sometimes you want to disrupt the status quo. You are bound to get this kind of feedback and of nudging or what people say. So, there's too much thinking. But the too much thinking is said by the third characteristic. You have to become what I call a Terminator 2. I call it. Why Terminator 2? If you watch the Terminator 2 movie, the villain, the one that every time they get reformed back to the original. So almost like, if I take the 2 miles thick skin, almost like, if you are in a bunker, you as missile guided one can enter the bunker and into the cave, still got wet. you need to come back as a Terminator 2. What does it mean? You need to come back in one piece. And this is not easy. But at the end of the day, it's related to my third bullet point. Actually, you learn hell a lot about the subjects. Imagine in my entire life for nearly 3 decades, I facilitated 7 dozen labs. When I say labs, these are not one-day workshop. You can learn. This is 4 weeks, 2 weeks, intense discussion. I always recommend people don't do one lab after the other. You get fatigue. Because why? The members in the lab are all good people. The one that is naked also SMEs, experts, and whatnot. So it's very intense on the brain. So you learn a lot. So I learned, for example, in my experience, HR through labs. I've never been in HR. But you had like 10 labs on HR. For example, in one particular company, we learn about talent management. I learned something about talent management. You know what? Actually, we never manage talent. We only manage job. We manage only human, not talent. That's why you have a problem of talent migration between, or not talent migration, talent movement between departments. Because the hoarding that's been posed by the division. Because nobody wants to release good people. Nobody, because it's for the KPI. And yet here we talk about we are building talent. The ability, so HR also don't have the power to move people around because the final signature also come from the line. So what I learned from this particular lab, example, the lab, that actually we never manage talent properly. We just manage job. We just manage human resources within the limits of the organization. So the career path. Now, because of what your exposure, you tend to be a bit flexible in terms of entry into the senior side of the organization. Because on the senior side, you tend to manage more of the organization side rather than more on technical side. So it helps. It helps really on your career path. It helps also whenever there is any what we call age cutting effort that needs to be done, normally you are being called because you are the one who are more familiar to do this kind of effort. As I said, the knowledge gain is tremendous. I mean, one thing that I also must caution is this. Like Andrew, I'm sure Andrew, you started with actually some books. The books get expanded because suddenly you learn the tentacles of the various subject. When you do organization transformation, there are so many subjects you need to cover. Suddenly you find that I thought I want to learn only about business side. Suddenly you have to learn about HR, IT, procurement, human capital, branding, culture. Sometimes you end up with actually a lot of books. That's what happened to me behind my back. So a lot of books on library collection of so many things that you need to know. But never regret, because this actually knowledge is actually bountiful and it's endless. So that's all I say about brief about transformation. That obviously there are more deeper version to some of the parts of the sharing. But this actually as a basic, I think this is probably a good start for us to learn. Thank you, Andrew, for giving me the chance to share.
Right. Oh, thank you very much. That was a very rich menu, much to digest, but quite a few things come through. Let me summarize for you, from what I think I learned from you in the last 40 minutes of discussion. Number one, what comes through is that your strength is your value integrity, your idea of principles and fairness, okay? Because when you go in, if you are biased, people will kick you out. You're not going to be a transformer.
Yep.
Number two, you have to set high standards. You really need to have high standards so that people look up to you and say, this guy is bringing something on the table. You know. Number three, you have to be a very fast learner. You have to be open, and you must be able to put things into perspective. It's no good just saying, "Oh, this is how I did in my last organization." So what? I also know better than you. I just share a story with you. When I went in to take over the Securities and Futures Commission, this is, I'm the chairman. Is this somebody put their hands up and says, "Sir, you are only here for 3 years. We are here forever." And then I realized, yeah, he's right. He's right. That means he's going to outlast you. Don't think you're going to transform me. I'm going to be here, and you're going to be gone, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to be very fast learner. And then I think the fourth characteristic that you have is that you're relentless discomfort with the status quo, and you're open to change, right? Because if you're not open-minded, you can't transform, right?
Yeah.
And the fifth one, which was the lesson that you gave us, was that you have to be continuously learning. You have to be an appetite for knowledge, right, and for self-development. So, if I may, try to, transformation is about dealing with complexity. The minute you go into an organization, you may think it looks simple from the outside, but inside it's extremely complicated.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, the transformer, which I really like, you are the Jedi, right? You are given mission impossible. You just go there and fix this. And exactly like, what you have put in very, very well, the Jedi needs to grasp immediately, the power in the system, right? The energy, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And if you don't get it, you don't get that energy, you will not be able to transform people.
Yeah.
So, what is the standard things that every management consultant comes in with? KPI. And I want to use this KPI because the word K, P, and I, which key performance indicators, are the message that I heard from Izani. Now, first, let me use the word K, right? K is about knowledge, okay, which, Izani repeated many times. But as you know, the first thing you learn is know your customer, know your business, right? And so if you're a transformer, do you know what business you're in? Do you know what business you're trying to transform?
Yeah.
And who is your customer? The customer is actually that organization that you're trying to transform, right? So if you don't know the K, right, you cannot transform. And then, that K itself also has this know your opportunities and know your risks, right? And then at the same time, you must know your strengths and know your weaknesses. So eventually, it is actually know yourself, right? The most important thing is to know yourself. So the KYC, the KYB, the KY, YY, know yourself, right, is very critical. But let's talk about the P. And I heard this many times, Izani, in your lecture. First of all, transformation is about people.
Yeah.
Right? It's about people. And people are the most difficult to transform, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And, it's not just the line people that needs to transform. It's the top guy who needs to transform. If the top guy doesn't get it, nothing changes. Okay?
Correct.
And very often, it's the line people who want to change.
Yeah.
And then the transformer comes and says, wonderful, but please change the boss. The boss does not change, nothing changes, right? So it's about people.
Yeah.
Now, it's just not just people. There was one line, the last one, is actually it's a political process.
Yeah.
You can offer the best technical solution. You don't get the politics, mati, semua mati, right?
Yep.
Nothing moves, okay? That was the lesson that I learned, very early in my life, right? You can give the best technical solution. Apa ini very rational, very scientific. Completely proved by data. Hey, the politics doesn't work like this, lah, and then it's finished, right? So the politics is very important, and that's why people change is about cultural change. You need to change the organization culturally. Then, the thing that the three P's that you use, which I thought was excellent, is about pain, it's about problem, it's about pleasure, right? It really is about emotion. People's about emotion, right? You feel the pain. Why am I doing the same thing over and again and I'm losing profits, right? I'm losing profits, okay? And the reason is as you say, they always think the future will be exactly like the past. And they didn't forget that the future is nothing like the past. Okay? What happened to Kodak? Okay? Kodak said, I am the biggest dominant player in the film business. Nobody can replace me. Slowly, this digital thing came in. Okay. The Canons of this world started making money. But even Canon started losing market share to Apple because Apple put in a camera into the thing, and the Apple was cheaper, better than the Canon, right? So and much more used. So the past is no guide for the future. But the last P that I think you keep on stressing, which I think is very important, is that everything is a process. Transformation is a process. And we go back to your first slide. What is transformation? Why do you transform? When do you transform? How do you transform? And then in everything that you do in that process, you have to have KPIs. What are the indicators that tell you that you have succeeded or you have failed? Right? So the what we have learned today, is that you've taken very complex experience, reduce it to simplicity, and convey this to whoever wants to learn on transformation, and realize that this is a very important path in which it's actually everyday life, because if you don't transform yourself, you don't adapt or you mitigate to the environment that is always changing, you're going to, have big failure, right? And so the transformation is very, very critical. So this is very, very important. Now, let's get back to some big lessons. What would you say is your biggest failure? Which failure taught you the most?
I think is trying to get leaders to embrace it. Because you know what? When you are advancing in a CEO, the CEO is very visible. Worse if it is in a government-linked company. Because this one, every move would have its own, like what you mentioned, political consequences. That is why it depends a couple of things now. One is because the character of the leader himself, he has the courage to do it now, the boldness. As you can see, Tan Sri, you can see in the landscape that we have now, people just toe the line.
That's a safe option. That's a safe option.
Correct. Even though the right thing to do is something else. But actually, what I learned is this. If the CEO is smart enough, if they can form what we call their core team, what we call the PMOs here, the little considerate, they can tell you on how to even to manage a political process.
But one of the problem with the core team is that if the core team tells the boss what he wants to hear, then you also have a problem.
No. The conversation is this. I remember for one particular CEO, I asked him a question. Sir, between me and you, this is about conversation on how to move about. This is a big change, Okay, but we need to have a talk because I report to him about. Then I said to him this: between me and you, who has done transformation? He hasn't done it. Then he paused and I said, don't worry, you are the CEO. I'm not going to replace your position. Don't worry. I'm asking that question between me and you who has done transformation. He paused a bit and then later said, okay, admittedly, you have got the experience. I haven't. Okay. If that's the case, who should listen to who about transformation? I listen to you or you listen to me? Okay, I listen to you. Thank you, thank you. So just zip your mouth a bit. I'm going to tell you how you should do it. So the CEOs, he listened. And his career went very well because he listened. So after the point, Andrew, I said to him, okay lah, if you don't believe me, I give you undated letter of resignation to you lah. You don't believe man. 3 months later, let me tell you, we got big results. But through labs, through all these things. So I enjoy this thing, but I know where you come from. It's always like, I agree with you, truth needs to be told to the CEO.
That's right.
Now the truth, actually, if you put together, that's why this small little team here, it must be a trusted advisor, lah, what I call it. But he must know, like what you mentioned to me earlier, it's about value integrity. This is not about me. Suppose you are my boss, Andrew. Okay, not about what you like to hear lah. I'm going to tell you, this is the thing that you should do. Whether you want to do or not, that's your call. But let me tell you, this is how you do it. If you want to do a risk mitigation, this is what you need to do. Then only you are safeguarded. So often what I find is this. The job of the CEO is very lonely.
Yes, absolutely right.
I remember when I went to one organization, so I said, sir, how come when you come from smoking time to come to the hall, people just run away? Here, this organization has got a same magnet pole. In other words, never attract one because people will run away from you because people will remember, alamak, what is he's going to ask me next. So it is very important for CEOs to be able to allow people to say.
That's right.
So in one organization, I mean, when you have 3 decades of this thing, you have so many war stories to tell. In one organization, one chairman was addressing 300 people, top people in that particular company. If there is something people did to that particular hotel, probably the entire company collapsed, right? This is what he said. You can see the graph there behind me. The thing that came down is called return on average capital employed. For the last 7 years I was chairman, it came down. My fault. Now you tell me now what I should do.
That's right.
So I said, so the thing is, that's why, Andrew, I think it is always very important, the person who is going to advise the CEO, be honest about it. Be honest to him and say, sir, it doesn't work like that. It works like this. Okay? You may live in your cloud, but this is the reality.
Yeah, absolutely right. The leader can, delegate authority, but he cannot delegate responsibility.
Yeah. But the people around him need to be honest. I wanted to share with you one thing about the thing that you mentioned about here, Andrew, 3 years, we are going to last longer than him and whatnot. Yeah? I call it the CIA method. Do you know the CIA? Copy, improve, and adopt.
Right.
Not the CIA government. I mean,
yes.
CIA. Yes. The CIA that when you come to the organization, you cannot simply say one size fits all. You must copy the thing, improve according to the context, and adopt it. That's why in one organization, let me tell you, I'm not revealing the organization. When I move from one organization to the competitor, so I'm not in the competitor organization. When we started the effort, we have open jaw market share. Let me explain open jaw. That company, the competitor was actually up, we are down. 2 years later, we beat them.
Right.
So the other side was very angry with me. He said, how the hell you did it? I said, I never steal your document, but you cannot take away what is in my brain.
That's right.
So we managed to overtake market share. So it's all about, so all I'm saying this, I think the copy, improve, adopt is a good thing. The other one is actually the sandwich effect. Let me explain what does it mean. Here there comes the CEO wants to do something very big, very great. You know who are playing balls, is the middle management. Next in line play game. So okay, what is the boss talking now? Right? Reality is that the one at the bottom wants to do change.
Yes.
So sandwich effect is actually the top, what we call the bread itself is the CEO. The patty is the management, right? The bottom bread is the masses lah. So the sandwich effect is that you have to sandwich the management in order for them to perform. So that's a method to do it. So
Izani, on the sandwich effect, there's a wonderful story told by a brilliant Chinese historian. He said that China is a country which is like a submarine sandwich.
Okay.
Then at the top is the emperor and the ministers. At the bottom are the rakyat, right?
Yeah.
And in between is the bureaucracy, the huge bureaucracy, right?
Yeah.
Now, the bottom is the emperor is far away, don't kacau me. But who kachaos them every day is the bureaucracy, okay? Because the boss wants something, the emperor wants something, I have to give you something. So, I got to impose tax, I want to, the rules and etc., right?
Yeah.
So how do you change the middle part is actually the most difficult one.
Yeah. No, what you do this, Andrew, what you do this. You change the platform.
Right.
The discussion is no longer in the bureaucracy.
The
discussion is in another platform.
That's right.
That's why, this is my experience. If you want to go and syndicate with high level people, don't go to their room. Because the room is their authority. They will tell you, how dare you tell me?
Absolutely right.
So the way to do it, say at the meeting.
Yes.
Say in the neutral place, hotels and whatnot.
That's right.
So to your analogy about this submarine sandwich, do it in another platform.
Well, Izani, you have identified exactly what's the problem right now worldwide. Okay.
Yeah.
The new platform is social media, right?
Yeah.
And the old platform is the TV, the old TV, the old newspapers. Semua mati, they get no revenue. Semua revenue all go to the social media.
Yeah.
And the social media is no longer, masses, to masses. It's actually one-to-one. Because when you look at the telephone, you say, wow, you like, okay, give you everything you like. You don't like, you never see anything you don't like, right?
Yeah.
So the whole system is become karang-kabut, and the top doesn't know what the hell's going on. The bottom is very angry, and the middle says, up yours, I am doing my own way. Correct. So that how to transform this is really the major challenge now.
That's right.
The platform has shifted.
The other one is actually what I call, the word orchestration.
Yes.
I call it as you move into this thick jungle and whatnot. I call it ONS lah. ONS.
Yes.
You orchestrate, you navigate, you strike. When you can strike, then you orchestrate again, you navigate, you strike. So what I'm saying is, I like the way that you talk about in the beginning of this particular session called is craft. Henry Mintzberg said that strategy is a crafting. It's not the normal planning one. I totally agree, because it's a mix between art, science, many things together. Right? Together. So in order for you to do transformation, even cultural transformation, like what happened, sorry to say, for our country, you need to do this orchestration, navigating, and strike.
That's right.
Then the use of social media, the movement, like Black Lives Matter. I never thought that it became so powerful that it caused even the US government to really listen well. what
Yeah.
to be done about it. So I always say that if anything they want to do a higher order transformation, it needs to do a movement but orchestrated version. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You need to orchestrate. You cannot have
No, I agree.
pockets
I
here and
agree.
there.
I agree.
You cannot have conference, one conference. Let's do something. No, doesn't work like that. Doesn't
That's
work.
right. That's right. But you know, this is so enjoyable. You know, we can do this many times over, but we have to stop very soon.
Yeah.
But let me summarize again. You know, you may have heard me say this before. There is a very different way between the orchestration in which there is the German von Karajan, directing, according to the script that is very clearly written, and the American jazz. I am of the jazz school.
Yeah, I agree.
We must make music together.
Yeah. Yeah.
All it takes for you is to strike 3 bars.
Yeah.
And then I take it from there.
Yeah.
And then the two of us make a very different.
Okay. So Andrew, they do orchestration and jazz together.
That's right.
Blend of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that is hybrid. That is how things transform, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because how did jazz become successful in America was because some classically trained musicians suddenly discovered this African American, music, and said that if I orchestrate it with strings and all this, the classical people will accept this. And so it was a hybrid between the very, I wouldn't say primitive, in fact, very spontaneous, right? Culture that was evolving from the grassroots. Add this to the Western culture that was the, classical music idea, and created a new hybrid. And that's all about transformation. But somebody needs to be the catalyst, to be the Jedi in all this, right? And I think, you've been a wonderful Jedi. You've taken us.
My thing to you, for the sake of this country, pull some, learned people together who understand parts of this as well. And actually, you can make into a bigger effort.
Well, that's exactly what we as a country needs to go through, right? How do we get everybody to be on the same conversation? Okay. And then slowly we make jazz together, and then create, a much better, more harmonious.
There is a tipping point effect that you need. So you need to have a runway event.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you can talk 50,000 feet up there.
Yes.
So that's why a bit Liu, when the people say about who donate to him or not doesn't matter. But the fact that it's happening on the ground.
That's right.
It's happening on the ground. So in transformation, the same thing. Leaders can talk about this. If I don't address the 3 P's, you can forget about it.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
So you need. Actually, we can understand on how to put it together.
Right.
If you know what I mean, it's not like out of the world that you cannot think of. It is possible. It's just get the brains together and think through about it, and then make sure that like what you mentioned, jazz must happen. Orchestra must happen together.
Yes. So it's not just rationale. It's not just the mind.
Yeah.
It's actually at the heart also,
Correct.
If you strike the right emotion, you will get the change.
Yeah.
Right?
Let me share with you one caliph of the story of the past in the Middle East.
Right.
He was like a sultan. But because, those days, they take responsibility on their own as well. So he walked around and he saw this one family who is not taking any meals yet for many days. He just bring wheat, one gunny of wheat, he just pass it directly. If he goes through the bureaucracy, I think the family will die.
That's right.
So what I'm saying is, the same thing, if you understand, but the conversation that sometimes I can see we had, about the seminar, how it doesn't work, because it's just, they go to the shelf,
That's right. Well, you remember the story of Alexander the Great and the Gordian knot?
Yeah, yeah,
You know, and
yeah.
the myth was this knot was so tied up. It's exactly like what we are suffering from at the moment. And then Alexander looked at it. He looked at it. He looked at it. He took out his sword. He cut the knot.
Yep, yep.
And then, but you know, people say that's not what you're supposed to do. But he unraveled it. You see, right?
That's why we need to also distinguish between renovation and doing new things altogether.
That's right. That's exactly it.
Sometimes you get entangled into trying to renovate. That's why I always tell people. I remember to be specific for 1 hour for one companies. I was asked to advise. I can never go into the as is mode.
That's right.
You can fill with landmines. The moment you say why the process is wrong, some people will say, why do you ever adjust that one?
That's right.
I always say, work from ambition based. Work from the one that to be side. You know,
That's right. That's
work
right.
a very interesting future, then get the question what it takes to get there. It's also moving house, Tan Sri.
Yes, yes.
You want to move
absolutely
from
right.
your terrace house to bungalow.
Yes.
You have settled amount and ask whether this chair can fit or not. Cannot fit.
Yeah.
Never mind, donate. You know, you
Yes.
have to almost do like that.
Yes.
Anyway, it has been a pleasure, Tan Sri.
Oh, it's wonderful.
I mean,
You know, we make music together. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, this. You know, it's this is not a formal lecture. This is a
Yeah.
conversation. This is a master class,
Yeah.
and it's through when you talk like this, then you get the sparks flying, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
people begin to
You're
understand.
right.
Oh
You're
yeah, that's how you do it, right? It's not as if it's a very dry lecture. You go up to the podium and says, "I tell you how to do this," you know,
Yeah.
and then I tell you, well, you know, maybe, you know, and then that's what happens. Well, Izani, thank you very much. This has been a wonderful masterclass. Wonderful to be the first one, and I hope we'll be, you know, many more to come. Okay, so thank you very much for giving us your knowledge, your wisdom, and your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.